Live NFL trivia every Tuesday night on Twitch at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come show off your football knowledge and have a chance to win cash prizes. Check the link in the description to find out more. And now, on with our feature presentation.
Most great players who play this sport end their career on a low note. They end it lacking the ability that they had in the prime of their career. We saw it happen with Dan Marino with his infamous 62-7 loss against the Jacksonville Jaguars in the 1999 Divisional. We saw it happen with Emmitt Smith looking sluggish as a Cardinal, and the list goes on and on. However, there are some players who are able to save their best for last. There are a select few who are able to retire and leave on their own terms, and leave after pulling off one of their best plays or seasons. Vikings quarterback Franz Harkington retired after a 1978 season where he led the league in passing yards. Browns fullback Jim Brown led the league in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns in his final season in 1965. And there's another player who's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame you might not know about who saved his best moment for last. In Roger Wehrli's final game ever, just a few days after announcing his retirement, he had the best play of his illustrious 14-year career, and a play that may have wound up saving his team's season. And this is the story behind that moment. Before I talk about the play itself, we need some context to suggest who Roger Wehrli is, because it will help us to understand the significance of this moment even more. The Cardinals have been a franchise since the late 1800s, and yet in their near century and a quarter-long history of the team, you can make a legitimate argument that besides Larry Wilson, Wehrli is the greatest defensive player in franchise history. Especially in the mid-1970s, when the Cardinals were consistently competing for NFC East titles and making the postseason, you would be hard-pressed to find too many secondary players who were better than Wehrli. After being drafted in the first round by the Cards in the 1969 NFL Draft, Wehrli made an immediate impact. Not only did he start 12 out of 14 games as a rookie, but he had an interception in just his second ever game. From there, his legacy began to grow, being named a Pro Bowler in 1970 and again in 1971. By the mid-70s, he was regularly receiving nominations from publications across the country for his play. He made 4 straight Pro Bowls from 1974 to 77. He was named a first-team All-Pro 3 straight years from 1975 to 77. He was named to the All-1970 second team, was named a second-team All-Pro in 1974, and was named a Pro Bowler yet again in 1979. And if those accolades weren't enough, take it from one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play this game. Cowboys legend and Hall of Famer Roger Staubach said on Wehrli, "After a while, you just stopped challenging him. There was no point to it. He was the best quarterback I played against." The term shutdown corner originated with Wehrli. However, as the 1970s drew to a close and the new decade rolled in, Wehrli began to decline, which is to be expected for any cornerback now in his mid-30s. He started just 9 games in 1981, which was the first time in his career that he didn't start double-digit games, and by 1982 he was relegated to a role on the bench, as they drafted his replacement Jeff Griffin in the 3rd round of the 1981 NFL Draft. Wehrli only started 1 game that year, which was only because injuries moved him up the depth chart. By this point, Wehrli knew that the writing was on the wall. The 35-year-old cornerback didn't have it anymore, and with that, he announced his retirement. On December 23, 1982, Roger Wehrli took to the mic and announced to the world that this season was going to be his last. After playing for a decade and a half, he was hanging it up following the conclusion of the season. He called it a hard decision to make, but that he had 14 good years with the team and wanted to go out now while he was still contributing. The announcement wasn't unexpected by any means, and head coach Jim Hanifin showered nothing but praise on Wehrli, saying that he epitomized the word class as a player and a man, that he was one of the greatest cornerbacks of all time, and that all the accolades and awards he's received in his career have been well-deserved. Wehrli also timed the announcement to be just a few days before the final home game of the season. On December 26th, the St. Louis Cardinals would take on the New York Giants. After that, they had 1 game left, which was on the road against Washington, and in all likelihood, any possible playoff games would be on the road. There was a high chance that this game coming up against New York would be the last time that Cards fans could see him in person and cheer his name. And the importance of this game in question cannot be overstated. I think it goes without saying, but the 1982 season was a bit of a weird one. You had only 9 games being played instead of the usual 16, and instead of a highly selective postseason where only 5 teams in each conference made it, 8 teams qualified. More than half the league made it into the field during the 1982 season. Entering this game, the Cardinals were 4-3. Get 5 wins and you're guaranteed a playoff spot. Win this game and you're officially in, having clinched a spot in the Super Bowl tournament. Lose this game, and you've got to show up next week on the road at Washington. And Washington was arguably the best team in football. They were 6-1, tied with Dallas and Miami for the best record in the league. They had won 14 of their last 17 games dating back to 1981, and 7 of their last 8 at RFK Stadium. Plus, the Cards lost a few weeks ago to Washington after turning the ball over 3 times. had dropped 6 of their last 7 against them, and had dropped 11 of their last 13 games against them. You do not want to put your playoff fate in the hands of a game against Washington, especially when you have an incredibly winnable home game against the Giants. Little did anyone know that during this game, Roger Wehrli was about to deliver one of the greatest swan songs of all time. December 26, 1982. The Cardinals against the Giants. Cards win and they're in. Cards lose and they need some help. You know the stakes by this point, so let's play some football. First drive of the game, and sure enough, it's Roger Wehrli who makes the play on third down to end New York's quest of crossing midfield. Probably should have come down with this ball, but regardless, it is a pass breakup, and he will have a way better moment in just a few minutes. Much like the Giants did on their first drive, the Cardinals get a first down to start things off, but then they get stalled before crossing midfield, and are forced to punt it away. Second drive for the Giants, and they're unable to get anything going. On third down, Joe Morris catches the pass a few yards short of the sticks, as he's unable to get any yards after the catch. New York is once again forced to punt, and it's a good one, hitting St. Louis at the 5-yard line. St. Louis runs 3 times and is unable to pick up the necessary 10 yards, so they punt it away. It's a relatively ugly start, and it stays ugly after the Giants go 3 and out after receiver and future Cardinal player Ernest Gray is unable to come down with this pass. Finally, a team is able to cross midfield, and that team was the Cardinals. Stump Mitchell catches his third down pass, and then he does the rest. He gets the Cardinals into field goal range and in prime position to score the first points of the day. That would be big, especially since the Cardinals have not lost a game all season up until that point when scoring first. St. Louis is unable to advance the ball any further, so that brings up fourth down, with Neil O'Donohue out there to kick and Roger Wehrli out there to hold. What happens next, considering the circumstances, is nothing short of remarkable. It's a fake field goal. Wehrli pulls it away, keeps it himself, and runs. And then after following his blockers, he runs into the end zone for an 18-yard touchdown. The crowd goes nuts, and rightfully so. In Wehrli's final home game ever, he just pulled off an unbelievable fake field goal to give the Cardinals the lead. And the importance of this play cannot be overstated. The Cards won this game by 3 points to clinch a playoff spot, assuming everything else stayed the same, which obviously is a bit ridiculous and unrealistic, but if the Cardinals kick the field goal here, they lose by 1. Instead, this fake field goal may have been the deciding factor. It helped send the Cardinals to the postseason for the first time since 1975, which was so long ago that the Buccaneers and Seahawks weren't even members of the NFL yet. And after the game, all the talk centered around the hero, a 35-year-old cornerback who just made the best play of his entire career. I think the question a lot of us are asking right now is this: who called for the fake? Was this a decision made by head coach Jim Hanifan or special teams coach Chuck Banker? Nope. Turns out it was made by Roger Wehrli himself. When the Giants got into the field goal alignment, Wehrli noticed that linebackers Byron Hunt and Brad Van Pelt were lined up in the middle of the field, trying to bust through and block the kick. Because of this, Wehrli thought that New York wouldn't have enough people on the corners to the outside. He said that it was a gamble and that everything had to be perfect, but based on what he saw with the alignment, he knew that this play was going to work. And what's crazy is that not only was this Wehrli's final regular season home game, but this unfortunately, or fortunately depending on how you look at it, turned out to be his final game period. During practice on Wednesday, 3 days after the game, he injured his knee and had to undergo surgery. This meant that he missed the season finale against Washington, which turned out to be a 28-0 loss where the Cards turned it over 5 times. And he missed the first round game against Green Bay, which was a 41-16 loss. I made a video a few months ago about a questionable coaching decision by Jim Hanifan in that game, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner. How many players get to say that they scored in their final game ever? Better yet, how many defensive players can say that? Well, Roger Wehrli can. Roger Wehrli never played another game afterwards, and in 2007, he was finally inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, forever enshrined in canon. And obviously, he had a fantastic career in the NFL. 7 Pro Bowls, 3 first-team All-Pros, respect from just about every single person he ever played with and that he went up against, and a ton of great plays, moments, and highlights. But in the 195 games that Wehrli played, the best moment of his career came in the last one. Talk about a player who saved his absolute best for last. Get your official Jaguar Gear 9 merchandise by going to jg9shop.com, and be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot, and be sure to check out Twitch every Monday and Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL Trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at JaguarGator9 and subscribe to 60-second NFL History on YouTube. To see highlight videos of players throughout the history of the NFL, subscribe to JG9 Highlights. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. So you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.